Hola, amigos. How do you do? My name is host Derek, and I'm about to tell you about poo. That's what I always like to do. Yeah, so I watched this video that Winston's mom recommended I watch this morning. It's called, I don't remember what it was called, different socionics, MBTI, whatever. And hi, Dark Phoenix. Anyway, nice to see you as well. My take on that was bullshit. What? The false equivalency thing is something I want to talk more about. TE assumes that everybody uses information for their own purposes, which is true, and that therefore it doesn't really matter whether the information is true or not, as long as it's useful, which is not true. So the whole idea about being a meta-analyst is we care a lot about whether the things we're saying are universally true or not. Things that are universally true have inherently more particularist application than things that are not universally true. So the problem is when people try to particularly apply stuff that's not universally true, they often run afoul of contradictions that will end up dismantling whatever work they're doing, rendering it unusable because of the contradictions it generates. So it's like I've had plenty of people come to me when they have been mistyped by somebody else. They're upset about that process, the fact that they weren't afforded a legitimate, argumentationally structured evaluation. They were offered somebody's perspective on things. What I want to stress is I am not typing people based on my perspective on things. This is not Eric's perspective on things, and that's how I'm typing people. No, it's the reduction of all the various ideas that are cognitive functions into things that actually can withstand argumentational scrutiny and muster, which is why my approach is absolutely superior to all others in every instance that it contradicts those others. And so for AsuraPsych to get on there and talk through this assumed frame as though there was no point in ever addressing the frame is just absolutely fucking appalling. There's no other word for it. It's absolutely appalling. Hey Theo, you know what? I want you to jazz the funk up, okay? I am not calm. In no fashion could I be said to be agitated or uncalm or anything of the sort. I am calm, and I am also correct. That's the nice thing about being a TI user is things don't reduce to emotions, right? It's like it's absolutely not a function of my emotion here. It's a function of the fact that I'm correct and the other person's incorrect. So that's one of the great things about being a TI user is I can establish that shit. I don't have to just make random claims. I have established it many times over. If in fact their perspective is right, then we're just talking about metaphor. We're not talking about anything concrete. But if we can't operationalize terms, that means something. Remember, those words mean something. They're not just random meaningless words. So, Miedity mia is all I can say about that. You watched both videos? Oh, well, I mean, the thing is, the good news is, Theo Servino, my little agitation doesn't matter at all in regards to the accuracy of what I'm saying. So typing is not absolutely concrete. You're correct. It's not hypothetical, though. It's an explanation that can be tested if it's explained correctly. Now, my explanation can be tested. So we can, for example, I have a concrete test to make sure you can invalidate. Here's how you can invalidate my methodology. Nobody else has that for you, but I have that for you. All you need to do is show me somebody who tests polar on both SI and NE, or SI and TI, or NI and TI, and then invalidates my understanding of things entirely. Now, the thing is, you can go test that yourself. Nobody else offers you that. Nobody else offers you an actual, objective, testable hypothesis. Other people's shit is not hypothetical. I'm giving you a real hypothesis that can be tested. Now, the reason it's not just hypothetical anymore is it has been tested a shit ton. And it's withstood scrutiny. I was doubtful about it at first, for sure. You know, I was doubtful about the universality of the skills tests, but they proved to be absolutely 100%. They withstood that hypothetical test. So, you know, the thing is, when you say it's hypothetical, you're not even using the word right. A hypothesis can be tested. Their typology stuff is metaphorical. Mine, you might say, is hypothetical. Theirs is absolutely not. Sorry, it's just how it is. I mean, look, people can disagree with me all they want. People get their emotions up in this shit and they get, everyone get all their feelings and whatever. The fact is, none of them are professional debate coaches who know how to put the case together, they're going to stand scrutiny, who understand what it means to operationalize terms, understand what it means to model something. So, as a consequence, they're wrong. They begin from the wrong standpoint, and so they're wrong across the board. Fruit from the poisonous tree. It's not the case. Oh, well, you can pick up good pieces of information from CS. No, all those pieces of information are fruit from the poisonous tree because the frame's wrong. Just like AsuraPsych's frame's wrong. There's a fucking truth slope, for God's sake. It's not just all arbitrary. I mean, God, it's like, what has happened to thinking in this world? The relativism is just appalling.
You are wonderful.
Thank you, Mom. You're wonderful too. Mom understands. Mom gets it. And the thing is, of course, I don't fight against their TE frame. I don't say that cognitive functions need to be a useless modality of expression and understanding. In fact, quite the contrary. I say that using this sort of lexicographical tool to understand people better is incredibly useful. If you understand it correctly, obviously. Now, here's the thing. It's definitely worth noting. So, my FE about this is not necessarily very good. I'm definitely adversarial about it. And so, somebody like Theo is going to use a lot of FE attacks because they're going to think this is an FE thing. This is not an FE thing. This is a TI thing. So, you know, the FE users need to just take a backseat because we're actually talking about something that's real here, not just metaphorical. What does that mean to say it's real? It means the taxonomy represents an actual mechanical process difference between different people that can be articulated and measured empirically. For all you TE morons out there who think it doesn't matter, oddly, you know, it's like empirics matter so much to TE people until you're talking about something where you don't have absolute empirics, right? And then all of a sudden empirics don't matter at all. It's like they don't get the point that obviously the correct intuitive explanation of things is not immediately proved, as was, you know, relativity wasn't immediately tested and proved. It was still correct over competing explanations. Plate tectonics wasn't immediately proved. It was still correct over competing explanations. This is how the fucking universe works. The tardation is just fucking appalling. If I wanted to play metaphorical Marvin all day, I'd be a goddamn ENFP. I want to be able to simulate human agency in a simulated environment that's equivalent to actual environment and demonstrate that if you approach cognitive functions the way I do, with the information flow notion that I have, on the various planes that I have, that you actually generate behavior from the simulated human beings that is equivalent to the behavior of the various types. That would be how to test something. That's how you model and test something. Am I the same wrong and right as everybody else? No, they have no fucking idea what they're doing.
You know? That's the truth. I mean, AsuraPsych knows what he's doing. He's playing with conveying metaphor to people. Great, fine. Convey as much metaphor as you want. I don't want to play that stupid game. I actually want to do something meaningful. That's true. I'm not the only TI user to think about typology. I'm the one who figured it out first. That does happen in the world, Theo. Sorry, it does. It's not for ego reasons that I'm making this claim. I mean, while other TI users thought about typology, there are very few who have actively constructed an understanding of it within the frame of a community that's constantly checking and balancing every wrong thing I come up with. Anytime I come up with something that's not argumentationally sustainable, I get hammered on it, which is appropriate and what should happen. Does AsuraPsych get hammered? Obviously not. He should. Everybody needs to get hammered or else people are wrong. The hammering I have endured has created a truth that is a lot more robust than anybody else's truth. They haven't undergone that experience of constructing, failing, starting over, constructing again, failing, starting over a third time, constructing again, and finally having everything fit and work. They haven't spent the years working on it that I have. It's like I'm surprised by anybody that this is the reality of things. That random person, me, Eric, figured out typology when nobody else did. It seems impossible to me, but it's true. I make a disinterested calculus here. It's not like I'm saying to myself, it's really important that you be the first person to figure this shit out or whatever. I fucking kind of hate it, frankly, because it's such a difficult claim to substantiate. It requires a lot of argumentation to even begin to reasonably substantiate it, and the people who are going to be disputing the claim aren't prepared to even understand necessarily all that argumentation, and those that are necessarily adversarial because they're TINE people, and it's just like, what a fucking mess. I wish it were something that I could talk about in some other fashion than to claim the simple truth of the matter, which is I have it right and everybody else has it wrong. That is the truth of the matter. To the extent that I have any elements that are wrong, they get hammered out as soon as I present them. I made a video the other night where I made some mistakes in my thinking out loud, basically, and Hambone immediately came in the next live stream and started fucking hammering me about it. Hi, Rachel. Nice to see you here. I love you. So the thing is, I'm not. Okay, fine. Verax X, I think you proved my point here. If I make any mistake, like for example, I said I would be more demure and FE considerate in critiquing people. And Verax X, of course, is hammering me on it because here I am, less demure or less FE sensitive on critiquing people or whatever. So that's the point I'm talking about. You know, it's like that happens even when we're talking about my sort of personal resolutions. Of course it happens when we're talking about my cognitive function ideation. I got a bunch of TI users around here slamming me on shit all the time. And that's how it should be. Note that there are other channels where people don't tolerate dissidents. Why? Because they're wrong and they can't support their position against the dissident position, right? Somebody comes in and says, I have a problem with this, C.S. Joseph. This is a contradiction. This here and this here create a contradiction. And C.S. Joseph astroturfs the shit. He hides that user from channel or whatever. Why? Because he knows he'll lose all those arguments because he's wrong. Now that document is a little old. It's not entirely right, but it's better than what else is out there. And in my current understanding of it, which is not much different, it's just a couple little things have evolved a little bit. You know, at least what I offer, I am the only person to offer anything concrete, which is like a skills test. And I can explain why the skills test naturally follows from a given cognitive function in a certain position. I can demonstrate that the truth of the notion that somebody has a blind spot easily enough. Hand me an ENTJ and you'll see SI polar in clear resolution. Nobody else can offer that. Nobody else can prove to you any concept in their notion. I can. I can pull up a video right now proving an ENTJ has 0 fucking SI. Now, even if you disagree that 0 SI correlates with SI polar, you'd have to agree that a certain segment of the population have this strange blind spot in SI, or you might want to call it something else even. Regardless, you'd have to account for that. What are the mechanics that account for this? How come these personalities that seem very similar in so many different ways all share the same blind spot? And that's where, at the end of the day, I'm going to win. It's observationally proved in a way that it's not by other people. It didn't trigger anger. See, this is the fucking problem people have. It triggered a legitimate intellectual indignation at the intellectual dishonesty implicit in that video. It was intellectually dishonest. It's a textbook example of it. He's pretending that there's an equivalency between all notions about cognitive functions and then making a video about all the different ways that one can take advantage of this equivalency without ever addressing the fundamental assumption that's false, which is that there's an equivalency between them. There is not an equivalency. So no, I won't let TE users get away with their bullshit. Does that mean I'm angry? What difference does it make? Why are you talking about my feelings? The funny thing is, I had the same conversation with Rachel the other night until I realized she and I are the same person. I do the same shit. I asked her, I'm like, I want to know where all the anger is coming from. And the answer is she was outraged, you know? She was legitimately outraged by something external to her. And so she voiced that. She expressed herself accordingly. I do the same thing. Am I angry? I'm annoyed. I'm annoyed. The thing is, Theo Servino, this is part of what annoys me. Everybody wants to reduce this to an FE thing. It's not an FE thing. It's a TI thing. For people who actually understand TI first, dominant, or second slot, they'll understand the inconsistency itself. The wrongness itself is sufficient to motivate a response. Remember, I'm universalist. Knowledge is true universally, and it's for universal communicative purposes. It is not for self-serving purposes. You try to make it self-serving when you reduce me to that FE frame. It's not accurate, it's unfair, and it's bad arguing, frankly. Now, if I don't care if he's alpha or not. It doesn't matter who voiced that perspective. I would have the same exact response to it. That's what's false about what you're saying, Theo. That's what's reducing my TI to FE. And it's not that. Now, if in fact there is that FE component, which I hadn't really thought about before, great. I'm happy. I'm happy to put an alpha down a notch always if they're wrong. If they're wrong. If and when, and only if and when they're wrong. It's more useful to put down an alpha who's wrong than it is to put down some random person who's got no subscribers, because at least people will get to hear the truth at a larger percentage of people will get to hear the truth when you're talking about somebody who's popular and well known. So in that regard, it's good that I'm taking down somebody big because it more universalizes my universal truth, and it more successfully dismantles his particular bullshit. So Mierity man is what I have to say about that. Thanks, Flow State. Appreciate it. That's what I like to hear. I like to hear a vote of confidence. I am. It's like, you know, hey, people saying I've got 40 whatever, and Winston's mom is saying what we are seeing is reactive style. Host Eric's temperament is choleric. Is it? I don't know. Am I reacting? Yeah, I am. I do have a reactive style because I see. The thing is, I saw through his bullshit right away. He's trying to smooth over his attack with his polar workarounds for his polar FE is my guess. If he's really an INTJ, he might be an ENTJ. I don't know what the fuck type he is. I never talked to the guy. But it's like, oh no, no. You are not sliding this bullshit underneath my door and pretending it's a bouquet of flowers. And it's exactly what the fuck that guy's trying to do. It was appalling. I couldn't believe it when I watched it. It was like, oh, the lies are thick in this one. And no, I'm not going to let those lies go uncalled out. No, I'm not. Sorry. Those are absolutely fucking lies. That relativist lies, those are lies. Hey, it's sort of like, nice to hear you here. Hey, Eric, I'm not at a place where I can talk at length at the moment. I'd be happy to discuss my points of view in this situation in about 3 hours if you want. That'd be fantastic. I have to work at 7. We could do it for about half an hour. If you're available at 6 o'clock, we can do it for about half an hour. Okay. But I gotta leave at 6:30 to go to work, or 7 to 9 tonight. But I would love to do that for half an hour. That'd be so much fun. It would be excellent for my channel, I'm sure, as well. Thank you for offering. Okay, so anyway, I gotta go. Listen. I can't cancel on these people. It's just not cool. But I mean, I could talk for. I could maybe. I can't even push back. It's 7 to 9, and we're talking about kids, and it's He says in about 3 hours. I could do it after I get home, or I could do it at 6 o'clock. Do you have my phone number? You can text me. Let me write it down here. 626 615 8751. I think that's my phone number. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I think. Well, Asura, I gotta say thank you for being so cool and everything. I do have a tendency to get off on the wrong foot with people. I'm not actually an asshole, and he's absolutely not a coward. No, he's not. AsuraPsych is not a coward, and I have not accused him of being one. And I appreciate his appearance here, and it checks me appropriately in terms of my FE. I'm sorry for flicking you off with both middle fingers. AsuraPsych. It deserved at most one. So I'm sure we're gonna get along fine. It's like, hey, the nice thing about if you are an INTJ, AsuraPsych, or if he is, the nice thing about FE Polar is, they don't get super offended by FE shit, and so we can still talk. People who've got FE in a higher slot, they they have problems, So anyway, cool. That'll be fine. Thank you, Theo Servino. Well, of course, when I'm talking to somebody directly, and they're not being adversarial, I'm never adversarial. I may start off something adversarial because I tend to think of time objects, as to say people's videos that they make, as sort of independent entities. I don't really link them to the people who make them necessarily. I may talk about the people who make them as though I do, but I don't really think, oh, I guess I just don't do FI. I don't put myself in their shoes in terms of how it would feel to be on the receiving end of such. So, and I am somewhat impulsive, you know. All right, cool. Right on, AsuraPsych. At your convenience, whenever we can. That sounds good. I would like to talk to you. It'll be a pleasant and respectful conversation. Sorry that I started us off with, you know, immediate aggression. Such is my way, I'm afraid. Such is my way. Yes, ENFPs benefit from INFJs keeping their FE in check. But I am easy to schmooze. Absolutely. I want peace between people. I don't want conflict and adversaries. But, you know, I do tend to think of certain specific ideas as fundamentally adversarial to my own. Because my own position is one that I don't think C.S. Joseph has anything to do with it at all. Zaylen Black. I don't give a fuck about C.S. Joseph. I don't spend any time thinking about him. And that's the other thing is these things that happen, for me, the emotional connection to them is as long as the thing is going on, a day or 2, 3 days. Some of them last a little longer than that. Like the spite monkeys are a challenging bunch of foes because, you know, it's like, it's a weird situation. It's like, I don't have a problem with the dudes, right? Their girlfriends have a problem with me. So I don't know what to do about that. Trying to act like Eric Sanchez. Julian and Henry, why do you just spend your time freaking insulting me and reducing and making random provocative claims and shit? Why? Why? What do you get out of it? NHPs have weak TI and ISFPs have strong TI. That's an interesting notion. How do you define TI? Someone attacks logic, is that an FI trigger for you? You automatically go on the attack. I mean, the thing is, what I saw that video as being was directly an attack on me and my claims. Namely, that in fact, there is one right way to understand it, and that other ways are wrong, or at least you could say metaphorical or of limited value. So for something, something can be purely metaphorical, something can be taxonomical, or something can be a model or modelable. And those are 3 different kinds of system. So, well, see, that's the thing. I view myself as being fundamentally on one side of a larger intellectual battle that's outside of myself. In other words, I'm a meta-analyst. Knowledge, truth, communication is validated universally and is purposed universally. And so I get offended to some extent, naturally, by people who want to subsume the communicative truth to their particular interests. In other words, I validate against the truth with my NI fifth function, etc., etc. Can I pull a service tarot card right now? Okay, well, Theo, listen, again, as I've explained before, I am doing what I want to do. Okay? I have presented for people's consumption, working with, changing, whatever they want to do with it, the best existing understanding of cognitive functions. I've presented hypotheses that can be tested. And if other people want to do that, they can. And if other people don't want to do that, they don't have to. Just as Einstein didn't test the theory of relativity, he came up with it. So too, you want me to do the work of rendering for other people information in a useful fashion. What AsuraPsych is doing, he's rendering Jungian cognitive function information, the metaphorical kind, into a simple, understandable package for people to view and enjoy. There's nothing wrong with that. But that's not coming up with anything that's meaningfully new and explanatory, which is what I've done, and testable, and that we can actually make this thing a little bit more scientific, quote unquote. I don't need that. Everybody thinks they know what I need. Why do I need that? I'm not blaming people for not spending days and weeks going through my videos. I don't blame people for that. You know, the point is, if they want to make claims about cognitive functions, and if I point out that there's flaws in their thing, and they want to understand my full position on the matter, then they can choose to go research it themselves or not. But they cannot continue to claim that they know better than I do without engaging with the ideas on some more meaningful level than that. For God's sake, Fate Wind, there are no such thing as subtypes. I'm allowing my dominant subtype, Eric. Okay, so here's the thing, though, Fate Wind. Last night I was in an entirely different kind of mood and an entirely different personality, per se, yeah? Here's the problem with that. Personality are the aspects of the self that stay the same. So I'm not always like this. How can it be part of my personality? That's why behaviors, like what you're talking about here, correlates, are not good ways to determine cognitive functions. We need to do process analyses instead. I've explained this on countless occasions. Nobody listens to me. It's a little frustrating. I didn't say he said he knew better than me. What I said he said is what he actually did say, which is that basically nobody's right, that it's a wash, that there are good and useful informations in all the different systems, and that there's no reason to prefer one over the other, but it's better to pick and choose ideas from each. That is what he said, and I call bullshit on it. That's it. Hi, Dad. Now, the thing is, with the kind of shit he's doing, it's very easy to check to see if he is correct or not, because he's explaining the position of somebody else who wrote a book. Okay? I need an AsuraPsych to explain my shit, possibly, right? Maybe you're right in that regard, Theo Sorvino. If I wanted to make sure that everybody understood it, that's what I would need. Somebody would need to do that. But I believe in individual agency. The reason he's doing that, AsuraPsych, is not because Jung asked him to do it or because he set that up. It's because AsuraPsych decided that's what he wanted to do. Jung's dead. Jung attained enough legitimacy on his own on the merits of the ideas to earn himself a future AsuraPsych to go and explain his shit to people. Good for him. So I'm not going to try to make that person happen for me. If that person happens, fantastic. You know? So it's like, I don't know what it is your facts or truths are sentiment to an agreement of perception. I don't know what that sentence means. Can you write that differently? Okay, so you're saying that you've concluded that basically I use an interface function, that I have a stronger interface function than, I guess, what, the mean of ENTP or something? But the problem is with that conclusion, Fabian, first of all, you always see me when I'm interfacing via FE and sometimes TE, depending on how you define it, okay? You never see me when I'm not on camera. But most of my life is not spent on camera. So why in the world would you conclude from the fact that when you look at the pond that's filled with nothing but goldfish, that the whole property is a goldfish farm? I mean, the thing is, you're not evaluating me as a human being, you're evaluating me as a media object. As a media object, what do? I interface. Here I am interfacing. Am I interfacing by a FE? Yes.
I'm here.
I know.
Oh,
I heard you say that. Yeah. I'm live streaming. 51, 50.
That car, but when you go to work, I'll be on it.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Cool.
Right, and then here's your box when you're ready for it.
What box? Oh, that box. Yeah, right. Okay, cool. Thanks. Nietzsche said there are no facts, simply interpretations. What do you think of that? I think that things attain truth value by virtue of agreement for the purpose of an argument. That's a better answer than anything Nietzsche could say. Because once again, it's an actual process analysis. It's not treating things so much as an object of analysis. And if you want to actually get right about philosophy, then that's what you need to do. You got to include the illocutionary frame. That is to say, each human being who's philosophizing is doing so for a reason themselves. And if you ignore that frame and you try to pretend that we only need to evaluate external objects on the metaphysical plane through their locutionary frame, which is to say the actual meaning of the words and the content of the arguments being made, then you're making a mistake that misunderstands the nature of human experience, and your philosophy is always going to be binary and fucked up. There you go. Pause, rewind, replay that section again, replay it again. When you understand it, you'll see where I'm coming from. I don't claim I started this whole typology thing. I have never said anything of the sort. What I say is that I'm the first person to have figured it out correctly. I am, in that regard, the solver of the puzzle. I certainly didn't start it. When I was here, I learned things from various people. But, nobody had solved the puzzle before I solved it. And, I haven't solved it completely, but now we know it's a puzzle that has a picture of dogs playing poker. So there are still some pieces to fill in. We need to find ways to make skills tests out of more than just 3 functions if you want to have solidity about more than a few types, So I'm not saying it's complete. I'm not saying that I've got nothing wrong. I'm saying, okay, I got the gist of it down. And the way it works is we have to account for the fact that there are 4 different planes: external metaphysical, external physical, internal metaphysical, and that shit plays out in 2 different kinds of time. That is, say, real-time and turn-based. These are basic sort of reality structuring preconditions to modeling something correctly. So you can establish fields with objects, agents, vectors, etc. You have to do this, or else you're not talking about something that's a model. You're talking about something that's a taxonomy or a metaphor. And this is a fundamental problem that I have when talking to people about this thing, is they don't know whether they're speaking in metaphor, whether they're speaking taxonomically, or whether they're actually talking about a model that can be modeled. Take what is that a picture of? Take a bowler hat, Eric. My name is spelled with a C, Dark Phoenix, okay? My name is spelled with C. Coffee break. All right, I'll have a coffee break. Actually, I need to run to the store and get cigarettes. What time is it anyway? 6:15. The next football game is probably going to start pretty soon. So anyway, okay, but again, Theo, I have written a book that explains it. Now, you say this claim, right? That I've created a model based on my personal experiences. Nobody will ever see those. Nobody will ever understand what you mean. Except I have written a book where I explain it. Not my personal experiences, but how the process analysis system works, etc. Okay? So what you're saying there is contrary to evidence, facts and evidence. Okay, go ahead. Great. Sure, anybody can read it. It's free. I'm not trying to hide it from people. I would like people's critique. As always is the case, and this is what nobody seems to understand. You're not the first fucking cowboy to come down and take shots at me. Any legitimate shots, low-hanging fruit has long since been accounted for. You've got to be pretty creative, smart, and insightful to find something wrong that somebody else hasn't found wrong before. Because my shit's always been open to critique. And if I'm wrong and they establish why and how, then I change my perspective to include their correctness, like any sane human being would. Apparently, nobody else is sane. Nobody else seems to do that. All right, what's it called? Exciting tables and words about human personality. And let me tell you, I'm not going to lie, Theo. The title is completely the truth. Namely, the tables and words are, in fact, exciting. If you like being excited by tables and words, this is the right book for you. For sure, okay? There you go. I'm actually out of weed, Ron Solo. I need to go to the cigarette store as well. So I'm going to wrap up this live stream. I appreciate everybody being here. 42 is good numbers, I guess. Starting MBTI community fights is good for viewership. So, yeah, it is kind of disgraceful amount of weed. I just ran out. I just smoked my last bong like 5 minutes ago. So anyway, I got a split, and I'll talk to y'all later. Don't forget to eat plenty of cheese, and if you do, eat twice as much next time.